6:30.
Okay.
Let's go.
Call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, you have the roll.
I do.
Okay. The minutes of November 1st. Can I have a motion? So moved.
Second.
Are there any additions, corrections, comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I will call for public comment. There's nobody in the audience physically. Is there anybody online that would like to make a comment?
There's nobody online.
Okay, then we will move on. I will ask for a motion to move the first selectman report up.
Oh, no,
That way.
I don't know if I have one. Okay. I didn't prepare one. Thank you.
Okay, okay, then we will go to the treasurer's report.
All right. Mine is quick anyway. All right, so page 1 of our treasurer's report. We'll go to the executive summary. So as of October 31, which does seem like a long time ago, fiscal year to date, the town has received revenue of $27,813,327, or 57.5% of the total amount of $48,377,698 budgeted. When comparing our performance to last fiscal year, we are slightly ahead of this time last year. Next, we move to the authorized investments section. At the end of October, the town had $31.9 million in its bank accounts. We did move $3 million out of the stiff account and back into Webster in mid-October in order to fulfill our payables and our payroll accounts. In the last month, the stiff rate has increased nicely, over 0.5%. The average last month was 3.02, and today it is currently 3.90. Yeah, very nice. The investment committee, as always, is reviewing our bank rates as well as cash needs to determine if we can switch around some funds to stiff. And Webster, as I always tell you every month, will show in arrears the stiff rate next month. So then we move to the pension plan. As the end of October, we received a report from Morgan Stanley, the town's investment manager, about the performance of the two pension plans, the town and the fire department. The town pension plan is down minus 1.72% fiscal year to date versus its benchmark of minus 1.28. Over the 3-year horizon, the town plan has returned 3.11 versus its benchmark of 2.97. And the fire department pension plan is down minus 1.68 fiscal year to date and has returned 3.11 over the 3-year horizon versus its benchmark of 2.97.
There's a pension board meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30. Everybody would like to attend.
Thursday morning.
Thursday.
Today's Tuesday.
Yep.
That's okay.
Yes.
But yeah, you're all welcome to come on Thursday.
And you can hybrid in if you'd like.
Yes, and they're very informative, so really, I always enjoy them in. Overall, the treasurer's responsibility is to oversee all monies belonging to the town. So as of October 31, total cash balances were $31.9 million. Total pension balances were $23.6 million for total assets under management of $55.5 million. So page 2 of the treasurer's report show our revenues broken out in more detail. Tax revenues were $141,536 for the month, bringing the fiscal year to date total to 26. I'm sorry, that was 141,000. I said right, yes. So bringing the fiscal year to date total to 26,871,658, or 57.4% of the amount budgeted for fiscal year 23. In terms of local revenues, town collected 76,132 with recording fees and building permits, taking lead in another quiet month. Overall, for the month of October, the town collected 367,608 in local revenue, or 57.5% of our fiscal year 23 budget. Did anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just comment? Sure. Go ahead. So I was on a board of directors meeting for costs today, and everybody is commenting how the state of Connecticut money is coming in, better than it has in past years. So today, 263,000 out of our budget, better than last year, you can see. But all the towns are commenting that the money seems to be, last year, as I recall, even though the state of Connecticut was pretty flush with money, we didn't get some money till the end of the year. And I'm thinking that the money is going to come in on a much steadier pace this year than it did last year.
It's good.
Okay. Are there any questions of the treasurer? Hearing none, we will move on to the finance director's report.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So I'm going to start with my written report, which I assume you all have in front of you. Today, we have spent on page 1, 18.4 million of our $48.4 million budget, or 38%. That's a little bit higher than where we were at this point last year at 36.9. And just want to point out that that is due to, in part, to a policy change that you all made to fully fund the pension plan. So this year we put in 648,000 right off the bat in July, as opposed to how we did it last year, where we put it in throughout the year. And that's kind of moved our expenses up for the first quarter a little bit more than we had in the past. So that explains why we are pacing a little bit ahead of schedule in terms of our expenditures. The changes that have occurred in our since last month, the Board of Finance had a very busy month in the last couple of meetings. During November, you appropriated $1,408,292 in ARPA funds. You also appropriated 3 reimbursable grants that totaled $1,769,500. And then on the second page of this report, also in the month of November, you approved $125,000 for a camera software system. Also, as an FYI, at last meeting, you did discuss moving the possibility of some of these appropriations that have been made over the past couple of months, if they were eligible for ARPA funds, and we did make application for those things and set that forth. In terms of our cash flow for the month of October, townwide, we're down 2.5 million. In terms of the general fund, we are down 3.2 million. We had $3.6 million in monthly expenses, and as the treasurer just reported, about $400,000 in revenues. In terms of our capital, those funds cumulatively are down 53,000. We did have some of the named projects that were approved in the budget for fiscal year 23. Purchases have been made, which I'll discuss in a moment, which ones. And also we paid some bills for the high school lights. I think that project was finally closing down. We didn't have much activity in the reserve funds, but you will see that the majority of the activity occurred in non-major funds. That bucket of funds is actually up 754,000 due to our final ARPA payment. We received $972,000 during October, and that was offset by $150,000 for our pension payroll, as well as $40,000 for our youth and family budget. Moving on to page 3, in terms of our capital outlays, you can see kind of halfway down the page, we purchased our dumpster. That was part of the named projects. So that balance is down to zero. We purchased the park and rec flagpole. That balance is down to zero. We purchased the park and rec netting for the mini golf, and also in the gazebo, it looks like we haven't spent any money, but we put $20,000 in when you approved the electrical work. So that, well, we haven't put that in yet. So, but when we do, you'll see those funds moving downward as we finish off the gazebo project. Capital expenditures, we spent actually almost all of our capital budget through the first 4 months, spent 504,000 out of 664. Most of that, of course, is due to the paving budget of $354,000 that we've spent. And then finally, going forward, the pension plan and the debt service, those two areas are done for the year. We've made our actuarial determined contribution already, so no more activities in the pension plan, and our debt outstanding isn't going to change as well. In terms of all of the other funds that are listed on the next page, there was nothing exceptional that happened. Everything's performing as expected. So I just have two other comments with regard to the finance director's report. The first is that the auditors are here at the moment. They are finishing up their audit. So far, so good. I met with them today, and they're still working. They're not quite done yet, but they think that they're finding that everything is in order. Maybe a couple tweaks here or there, but we will see when they finish up. And you can be expecting to have a report to the Board of Finance at your January meeting. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention, now that the budget is underway, we do have a new software system that I'm using for the budget, and it's a reporting software system. It's called ClearGov. Several of the other municipalities in Connecticut are also using this, and it's really a system that's going to be, enhance transparency. The way we look at the budget is going to be slightly different. I mean, you're not going to see a lot of major changes, but just preparing you for when we do start talking about the budget, and when you do start looking at the budget books, that it's going to be a little bit different. But I think the information is going to be more clear. It's going to be more encompassing, and I hope that you're going to enjoy taking a look at it. There's not, a lot of numbers, but budget season is always fun, and we have something new to look forward to. So we've been working on that, and I think that's about it. That's it, Mr. Chair. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We will now look at and take up the meeting calendar for next year.
Make a motion to approve it. The only question I have is July 4th and November 7th. Should we send an alternate date, or do we just
Take a break.
take a break?
Yeah, usually, because the July 4th, usually the end of the year budget hasn't been finalized yet. So if we just eliminate the first meeting and just have the.
And if you need a special, you can always have a
Yeah.
special. And the only thing, I mean, I don't think the time, I'm looking for it. I don't think the time of the meetings are listed on this, so might want to clarify that.
Okay, I'll add that.
6:30.
6:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one that,
I'll be in bed by 8. Any discussion?
So we will cancel the two meetings that have conflicts, unless anybody has an objection.
So I just won't listen at all. They're gonna cancel them when we get to it.
No, just don't listen.
Just don't listen.
Yeah. The July 4th and the November 7th.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Okay, that's taken care of.
Select me. Well, just very briefly, the town meeting, the annual town meeting is November 28th. In past years, I've tried to keep the annual town meeting short and dedicated to a couple people who have given us really nice public service over the years. Unfortunately, this year, there's business and looks like it could be a rather lengthy meeting. The meeting's at 6:30 at the middle school, November 28th, Monday after Thanksgiving. That's set in the town charter. And all your ARPA appropriations are on there, as well as the 2 legislative earmarks, the steep grant, and a few other projects, obviously, the 125 for the cameras, 20 for the gazebo, and I think might even be 1 or 2 other things on there. So it's going to be a longer meeting than normal that we have at the annual town meeting, but it can be a business meeting. There's nothing that says it can't be. So it will be. CCM and Cost are both finalizing their legislative agendas. Obviously, we have a very similar makeup in state government. I anticipate affordable housing will be front and center. Last year, there was a transportation-oriented development proposal that came forth that got beat. It eventually did not pass. But it was as of right affordable housing within, I think, a half mile of a train station. And I actually testified at the hearing, but I didn't testify for or against it. I just said, worked great in Old Saybrook, because it did. And I'd love to see more on Stage Road, in fact, because that is, I think, ripe for redevelopment. But there were it was very bipartisan, the opposition to this in Fairfield County, because there are so many train stations and there's other developments there, and folks didn't necessarily want that. So it'll be curious to see how that develops in the legislature this year. I think the amount of money that the town gets is going to be very similar. There was an article, I don't know if everybody saw it, in the Connecticut Mirror, I think, an Examiner, and it listed the amounts of state aid that the towns in our area get. And per capita, Old Saybrook gets, like, we're in the top, well, the bottom 5, I should say, bottom 7 or 8. We get about 550,000 a year. And per capita, that is one of the lowest in the state, with Darien and, a few others like that. I'm not proud of that. I'm just saying that's something I saw. But I think that number should stay the same. I don't think it'll be reduced. For many years, as we know, it was being reduced. I would still, as we develop the budget, probably recommend that we keep the 460,000 and not go to the 550, because I don't, whether whoever it is in this office, I think eventually you may see cuts to state aid. I mean, that's always on the table. And don't be surprised if the teachers' retirement funding comes up again. Remember that came up about 5 years ago. I wouldn't be shocked if that came back at some point, that the towns pick up a piece of that. But I don't know. Any questions? I'll be just curious to see what happens at the.
Carl, I mean, we're talking about the money that we get. Do we have any figures about the tax dollars that we send to Hartford? What percentage of it we get back?
No. Yeah, I don't have that, but no. But given the fact that on a per capita basis, it's very low, and demographically, our equalized net grand list is one of the highest in the state. I'm guessing that the numbers are out of balance, but that's probably true for 40 communities in the state, maybe more. That I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole in a way, because that's all it is, you know, in a way. It's-
It's just something to think about sometime about how great the state
So,
is spending its money back.
If the state were to fully fund educational cost sharing and fully fund pilot, we would probably see another $500,000 anyway. I mean, maybe more. But I think the mantra at the state level, and I think it will continue to be this, is don't worry, I won't cut you anymore. We'll give you what you're getting. Don't expect more though. Every year, cost and CCM push very hard for fully funding pilot, fully funding educational cost sharing. And I don't know that that's happening. Even with very robust state coffers. We'll see. I mean, the legislature, when it gets together, there's always crazy bills. I think every one of us would say, no way, they can't do that. Those bills typically die at some point. But we'll see what the legislature takes up as a feature issue. I think I truly think affordable housing is going to be front and center as an issue up there this year.
One thing I dislike about affordable housing is that people get in because they qualify because of their income level. So then they have no incentive to do better, to make more money, because then they have to move to a normal rent. I would rather see a grant program where the down payment is available to them, that over a period, like the state just did it through CHAFA. It did a 10-year program where if you got a grant, say $50,000, which was eligible in Saybrook, for every year you stayed in the house, you would only have to pay back
Right.
5,000 less as the 10 years go on. So that there's an incentive there for people to
Affordable housing is typically rent.
right, but the problem is they have ceilings like down the street of income level. So they have no incentive to make more money in life because then they have to move out of the rent from 8.
Really? You think
to
so?
15 or absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, we don't, trust me, we'll never have a lot of it, okay? No, even though the goal is for towns to get to 10% of affordable housing in their stock, it's just not gonna happen. The amount of 830G affordable housing we have in this town is, you know,
15, 18 or 15.
yeah, I mean, and
Yeah, but the point is though, there's no incentive for these people to,
a lot of those, but some of those at Ferry Road, Brad, are disabled veterans and, you know, it's not all just folks who are going to work every day. There are some people in that housing there who probably wouldn't be able to find housing but for that.
that's.
I don't know that we need to worry about our affordable housing stock. Philosophically, I hear what you're saying, you know, from a statewide policy perspective, perhaps, but we need more affordable housing in the state of Connecticut. People can't afford, you know, whether it's incentive housing like we have at the train station, or just more housing that is different than single family housing. We need more of it.
Brian's point, can you find out what the turnover rate is in affordable housing? Is there a turnover?
I sure, maybe, yes.
I mean, to rebut what he's saying.
I'm sure someone can find out. I don't know.
I'm sure the state would know that.
Yeah,
I mean, overall, not just in Old Saybrook.
yeah.
Yeah, and then as the minimum wage starts to go up, do they push themselves out of the affordable
Not
housing?
with the minimum wage, you know.
Well, a couple of two at $20 an hour is 41.6. It's 83.2. And I think the limit over there last I knew was around 85.
Yeah, I don't.
So as long as there's no overtime, we're okay.
No, anyway. That'll start up soon enough. We'll see where it goes.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, any liaison reports?
Yeah, I got
I'm gonna scoot upstairs.
Okay.
Board of Ed, filed an initial application documents to apply for an HVAC grant with the state. And we're also working on their 2024 budget, which they hope to get to full bid by holiday break.
Okay. Anybody
What
else?
was that grant again that you said there?
The
H-
HVAC,
grant?
Yeah.
Okay,
apply for a grant, hopefully we'll get it.
Public Works, is, no activity, nothing to report on that one.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, comments from board members? Okay, any addition to the public?
I have still not a board member.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, with the people coming and going in the town now, I'm always talking about institutional memory. So we need to be cognizant of what people have when they come to the town and how long they work for us. And when they get ready to go, the institutional memory that they have, we need to have some sort of record of it so it can be passed on to the town or the next person that follows up in that particular position. So just, I like to talk about that because it's important to the town.
I know the facilities director has instituted that in his own job. He has delineated all of the septic systems, all of the fire alarms in every building. He has spreadsheets on all of that, so I think that's a good idea if every department followed that process.
Yep. So it's worth discussing it more, and whether or not everybody has a date timer or whether it's a date timer on their iPad. At least that information could be pulled out at some point in the future if they need to, you know. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, no comments from the chair. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So.
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
We stand adjourned.